G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to Star Citizen with Mags, and I'm finally in the alpha development. Yes, this is my own account, and we are in my, office, I guess is the best way to describe it. Now, not long after I created the account, one of my subscribers immediately sent through a load of small collectibles and something else that we're going to take a look at in another video. So just having a quick look around, I got a model of an Aegis Sabre. This is probably the spacecraft I want more than anything else in this game. That is basically an F-14 Tomcat in space with stealth capabilities. And we've got a model of a Starfarer as well, which is a cargo hauler, which I'll probably pick up once the game goes live and I can pick it up for in-game currency. And a few other artifacts were thrown in just to make the office look a little bit cooler. But let's be honest, that's not what you're here to check out today. What you're here to check out is that. Now, I just want to make this perfectly clear. This is not a review. This is, at best, a first impressions. So, welcome to the starter ship that I have chosen. This is the Consolidated Outland Mustang Alpha. Now, I picked this one for a couple of reasons. First thing, it does have a small cargo bay. It's not particularly large, but I imagine it's probably going to be the equivalent of whatever starting ship the game hands you once it goes live. It does have some great armament, it's extremely maneuverable, it's very fast, it's very small, and it looks absolutely fantastic. The other reason was because the pack for this particular spacecraft also came with, there was a 6-month insurance on it and a few other little things that came with it, but most importantly of it all, it also came with Squadron 42. Now, Squadron 42 is a single-player campaign. It's going to be somewhat like Wing Commander, I guess, is what Chris Roberts is going for, that will be released before the full Persistent Universe and the full, the MMO portion of Star Citizen goes live. It's actually due for release. It was due by the end of this year, but it's probably going to be early next year now. Now, the price tag on this pack is $60 US, which is the price of a brand new release game, and with the inclusion of Squadron 42, that's precisely what you're doing. You're buying Star Citizen before it comes out, and you're getting a ship as a bonus. So, not a bad deal overall. Now, the Mustang can be upgraded. You would have noticed there are slots underneath the wings for additional weapons mounts, fixed weapons mounts that currently don't have anything fixed to them. Basically, the Mustang Alpha is one of 4 models of Mustang that are currently available to purchase in Star Citizen, the Alpha being the most basic. It's got the most basic equipment loadout of the 4 that are available. That being said, I've actually found it to be really effective. I really enjoy flying this little thing. It's like flying a TIE fighter. It's so tiny and so maneuverable. It doesn't survive because it's well armoured and got big shields. It survives because it's a pain in the ass to actually hit it in the first place. Now, it still does have the most basic loadout, but that is perfectly fine for when the game actually goes live and the Persistent Universe comes available for real. It means that this ship is never going to go out of date, or at least it's not going to go out of date immediately. You'll be able to do some upgrades to it and keep it floating around and relevant to your collection of ships for some time into the game until you have something, enough credits built up to be able to purchase something significantly larger, which is alright, because as a general rule, the starter ships in most of these type of games, they're obsolete after an hour's worth of play, and that's a little frustrating. So that's enough of the hangar tour. Let's flick over to the space station. So, before we flick back to the Mustang, I just want to show this off. I've discovered a new, let's call it emergent gameplay within the Star Citizen Alpha at this point. On my way out to the hangar, I spotted a couple of other ships that players had spawned in, ships that I don't have access to, because they will just sit out on the pads, and you can take a bit of a look at them. I believe you can actually steal them if you want to, although I haven't done that yet. And I came across this thing. This is the Aegis Sabre. This is the Sabre that I had the small model of inside of my office back in the hangar. And just look at this thing. Now, I would be very, very, very tempted to buy this, except that this is a ship that is actually no longer available for purchase. It was only available for a very, very limited time. This is the F-14 Tomcat in space. And it is just stunning to look at. And of course, spotting that parked on the pad made me actually look around and see what else was out. So we've got a Constellation parked over there. We can see one of the other players running over to jump in his ship. I do love that you can actually see him strafing out the side looking at his own vessel, because I would do exactly the same thing. And then I came across this. This is the 315P. This is the upgrade on the 300i that I was flying from Dead Meat's account in my last video. And then I came across this, which I believe was originally an Avenger, but somebody may have come in on the landing just a little bit too hot. I actually found myself spending about an hour and a half on my last playthrough running around the pads just looking at the ships that were being spawned in. So on board the Mustang, now it's only got a ladder access, there are no beds, there's nothing but the command seat. You do clip a little when you get inside, but that seems to be the mocap is not optimized for something that is as small as the Mustang when you get on board. I'm sure that'll be fixed at some point in the future. I also noticed this.
System failure imminent.
That seems to be fairly common with every ship that you power up. It calls a system failure as soon as you turn it on in the first place. I'm not sure why it does that, but it doesn't affect the ship at all. So this time I don't just want to fly around the stations or jump around. We're actually going to do a mission in this one. We're going to do something fairly simple. That is your, I suppose, menu for inside of the game. And this is your mission selection that is currently available in the Persistent universe. And there's a couple of options that pop up. They seem to rotate through. The most common one of these, temporary contracts, comm technicians. This seems to be your bread and butter mission for new players. The space around Crusader, which is Crusader's the gas giant you see in the background, is studded with these communication stations, and they seem to regularly go down. When you pick up one of these missions, it gives you a waypoint to one of the comms relays. When you arrive, there's usually a couple of pirates that will show up, so there's a bit of space combat, and then you need to repair the comms relay in order to get communications running again and complete the mission. You get about 1,000 in-game credits for doing this. It's not much. You'll have to complete a few of them to start with in order to be able to purchase anything meaningful within the game. That being said, they only take about 10 minutes to complete, and you can chain them together. And just look at the view outside of this thing. This is why I want Track IR available inside a Star Citizen, just to look around the inside of the cockpits like this. The visibility out of this is amazing. So anyways, let's go over to our comms relay.
Quantum travel engaged. Quantum travel complete. Contact. Scanning.
Finally, some
Contact.
easy pickings.
Scanning.
And we are now on site, and the pirates have just started arriving. Now, the ships that they're flying can vary around a little bit, although Hornets seem to be very popular amongst pirates. Now, a Hornet flown by a player is a significant threat. However, the ones flown by the pirates, you can dodge around them fairly easily. Now, I am flying with a combination of mouse and joystick on this one. I was originally trying to fly this just out of joystick, but I found that I just haven't quite got the joystick calibrated right, so I'm just using mouse for the moment as a stopgap measure. Now, I did see a few comments in my last video, people worried that this might be a mouse point and click. The mouse works perfectly fine when engaging AI opponents. However, I have had a little bit of a play in the PvP section for it now, and I can tell you, while it does give you precision on your shots, a player with a correctly configured joystick or a twin stick setup, which is apparently very popular amongst players for Star Citizen at the moment, can maneuver their ships so quickly that it almost nullifies the precision accuracy that the mouse grants you. So in a PvP setup, I'll use mouse in PvE. I'm not entirely sure I would rely on it in PvP. Now, you'll notice the star specks that are moving around in the background. This isn't a particularly realistic thing, but it's fairly common among space games, so you get an idea of your direction of travel and your inertia. You can see I'm actually strafing rather heavily here. I'm trying to avoid shots, because if this thing hits me, it is going to tear my ship in half. And with the small size and the maneuvering capability of the Mustang, coupled with its weapons being on a turret mount, this is quite easy to do. Now, I ended up just ramming into him there, which wasn't the smartest thing in the world. This is another area where track IR would come in. I would be able to just simply look up and be able to track that movement, and I would have been able to use the thrusters to avoid actually running into him. But I never realised he was actually that close until I hit him. Now at this point I am just firing on the target with the marker that it's given me for him. I didn't actually realise it at the time of flying this mission that if I manually lock, the guns will actually give me a whole host of lead calculators and a whole bunch of other things in order to be able to efficiently put shots on target and increase the reliability. So I was just eyeballing shots there, but I didn't need to. I'm sure that's going to annoy the crap out of Star Citizen veterans, but hey, I've never claimed to be anything but a new player at this, so yeah. Anyways, that is our 2 pirates eliminated. Now at this point we have to go and fix this space station in order to complete the mission. So we close in on the communications array, and I want to park the ship somewhere nice and close, because you don't fix a station from inside of your ship. You've got to go EVA to fix a station. And this is where another level of the emergent gameplay can come into place. You see, this system that I'm in at the moment with this space station completing this mission is not just available to me. Any player could pick up exactly the same mission that I'm on and jump into the system right now. And here's the kicker. The money goes to the person who completes the mission first. So they can come in and engage pirates, much like you just did, and race you to it, or they can come in and just blow your ship to pieces while you're outside of it, jump out of the ship, and then gun you down inside of the station. This is not a closed instance. Anybody that is currently in Star Citizen could enter at any time. So, let's jump out into the void. Now this is a time that I realised one particular little thing about the Mustang. It's so small it doesn't have an airlock, so to be able to do this, the inside of the Mustang must be in vacuum at all times. That doesn't really change how the ship flies, of course, but it's just an interesting thing to keep in mind. So let's just have a look at our Mustang floating out here in space, and I forgot to turn the lights on. You'll see the headlights just mounted there on the wings, and you'll also see 2 of them mounted on the nose. These actually are very useful, I've found, especially when you're approaching a station to complete a mission on it from the dark side, away from the sun. You can turn on the headlamps and it will illuminate this entire side of the station, making it much easier to see what's going on. They're not just something you turn on while you're flying around in space where there's nothing to really see. You can actually use them to light up what you're trying to get inside of, and makes life much easier. Now, as I said earlier, these missions are a little bit of a milk run. They are very simple. There's nothing too complicated to this component. You just EVA inside of the station through the external access. There is 2 access, 1 on each side of the station, and it goes into this central core. The nav marker indicates the location of the control console for the system, and all you have to do is go down there and hit your use button on it, and it cycles the station through a reboot and puts communications back online. As soon as you do that, you receive your 1,000 credits. Nice and simple.
System startup initiated. Establishing connection. Array function restored.
And there we go, mission complete, nice and simple. Now all we've got to do is head back towards the access hatch, jump back in our Mustang, and shoot off. Now at this point, we can fly back to Port Olisar and land if we want to, or we can fly off and we can do another one of these, or one of the other missions that it's available, and you can chain them together as much as you like. The difficulty here is not much. As I said, this is supposed to be the really beginner missions. They don't pay out a lot, they're just there for a little bit of something to do to start building your credits, nice and easy. Actually, while we're outside, let's take a look in the back of this ship, because this is one area that I'm a little, not confused about, a little curious about. The back of the Mustang, as you can see, is very hollow, but it's also very large, and it looks like something should go in there. I'm actually thinking, because just on the other side of that is the point that the ladder is mounted in order to access the ship. I'm wondering whether or not a large module can be fitted in the back that is currently not available. Say a cargo module, or perhaps a habitation or a sensor array that can be used in exploration, something that's got a bed in it so you can log out in space. I'm not sure. I've checked in the hangar and I've looked for a mounting point where something can be fitted, and there isn't currently nothing there. But I have a sneaking suspicion that something will be able to be plugged into the back of your ship to increase its capabilities, but potentially at enough mass that it slows down its maneuverability. Again, not concerned, it's interesting. And there we go, the headlights came on when I powered up, and that's how much light they actually throw out. So it makes it much easier to see when you're accessing something on the dark side. So at this point I think we're going to head back to Port Olisar and we're going to put this thing back down on the landing pad. Other things I've noticed with it, you'll notice on the bottom left hand side of the HUD it is constantly telling me that my landing gear is deployed. I'm pretty sure this is just a bug. The Mustang doesn't have landing gear. The skids for its landing are actually inbuilt to the superstructure of the wings, so they're always deployed. There is no way to retract them. But yes, that is a basic mission inside of Star Citizen, and the real fun of these comes when multiple players actually arrive. A couple of missions after I recorded this particular flight, I ran into one where there were two players working together taking out pirates. It seems the more players are inside one or near one of these space stations, the more pirates spawn in, so it was one hell of a fight. And then it turned into a massive drag race in order to actually complete the mission, which I promptly bailed out of when the second player that wasn't going for the station itself, who was in a Hornet, decided to put a couple of shots across my bow to convince me that maybe go find another station to repair on my own. I jumped into another one not long after that, and the pirates had already been cleared, and I noticed that there were two ships parked outside of the station, and there seemed to be a sustained gunfight happening in 0G outside of the station, with two players fighting over who was going to go inside to complete the mission. I was honestly tempted to actually test my ship's guns at that point on a player, but I decided against it. And so back home, time for me to put the Mustang down on the pad and go and do a little bit more ship spotting. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. If anybody's been interested by these videos and potentially jumping into Star Citizen, there is a code in the video description below that you can add in that will give you an extra 5,000 credits when you register into the game and pick up a pack. It also allows me to see your in-game name against my referrals, so when I eventually get around to putting together a corporation inside of Star Citizen, this is where I'll be choosing to do some of my recruiting from. As always, let me know in the comment section below what you think of the Mustang and what you think of Star Citizen in general from what you've seen so far. Don't forget to leave a like if you do, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and until next time, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the void.